Hello and welcome to Fly With Your Shadow, a podcast featuring conversations about the lives of the people who make music, including career-based issues like mental health and illness, addictions, uncertainties, and the difficulties they face trying to earn a living. My name is Jeff Robson, and this show comes to you from my home in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Today's episode features a guy who's been one of my favorite solo live performers for almost 25 years.
Cried for all of them, feather, fur, and fin.
Hi, my name is Michel, and I'm a musician, songwriter, producer.
Michel comes from a fertile music community in the Kitchener-Waterloo area of Ontario. That community has been a hotbed of great music for a long time. It's launched the careers of people like Rob Zabo, Shannon Lyon, and the late, great Paul McLeod, who you might remember we profiled on episode 17 of this show.
Reach out in the night, take hold of my hand. This lifeboat is loaded, there's no sign of land. I heard your voice, take hold of the moon.
Coincidentally enough, that episode featured a conversation with Mark Logan, who's a key figure in the Kitchener-Waterloo music community as the head of Busted Flat Records and the owner and operator of Encore Records. Just recently, Mark helped Michel put out a 25th anniversary remix vinyl version of songs from his first two solo albums. Michel is primarily known for his solo career for good reason. He's written some great, timeless songs and released 14 fantastic albums, including a live album recorded right here in Winnipeg, a tribute to David Bowie, and a volume of re-recorded and updated songs from his catalog called New Coat of Paint. He's been hired as a guitar player by singer-songwriters Gwen, Swick, and Sarah Harmer, among others. He's produced albums for folks like Leeroy Stagger, Damhnait Doyle, and Lindy Vopnfjord. In 2018, Danny raised the alarm about the criminally low rates that streaming services like Spotify pay artists that they rely on. He made national and international news by taking his concerns directly to Spotify in an attempt to change the way that artists are compensated for their work. As you'll hear in our conversation, things didn't exactly turn out the way he'd planned. It's a lively, revealing conversation that I hope you'll really enjoy as much as I did. After the show, visit flywithyourshadow.com for links and more information. But enough build-up, let's get to my chat with Michel.
There's a switchman up around the bend. He gets you in the end every time.
Tell me a bit about your musical awakening. When did you decide that music was going to be for you? Were you that precocious kid banging on the pots and pans, or how did music come to be a part of your life? Because you've been doing this since you were pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being really fascinated with music since I was I remember reaching up and banging on the piano keys when I was below them, right? But I remember distinctly moments that I became interested, I would say almost more in recording, in the engineering kind of stuff. I was fascinated by the equipment. So I remember my dad had these reel-to-reel machines, and I would play around with them, and I'd get in trouble because I would accidentally erase all his tapes and stuff. But I remember playing with the machine and plugging a microphone in and recording my voice and then rewinding it and hearing my voice and being just blown away. But then I figured out that if I could slow the tape down and my voice sounded funny and speed it up, and that was incredible. And then I figured out if I put the tape on backwards, it played my voice backwards, and that was super, super fascinating to me. So for me, writing music was mostly about was in parallel going at the same time with learning how to record music, the engineering and that stuff was really very fascinating and exciting to me.
So were you the guy that everybody wanted in the band because you knew how stuff worked and you could help? Were you recording music with your friends because you knew how at the time, or?
Yeah, well, what was really cool is there were these guys down the road from me who were older than me, a lot older than me. I was probably they were probably 10 years older than me, but they would let me come out and hang out and watch, and they were really inspiring guys because they had the first 4-track cassette machines, and they had the first drum machine I'd ever seen. It was the beginning of the 80s, right? And and they had all this gear, and I would watch them like record multi-tracks, and then I'm like, okay, this is next level. So yeah, those guys were my first glimpse into like multi-track recording. And then yeah, it was like me and my first bands, we had lots of gear, like we bought our own PA and, you know, running cables, and yeah, it was that part of it was equally as exciting as playing, you know.
Have you always been a Kitchener-Waterloo guy? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I was born there. Yeah, I'm not there anymore, but I played there a bunch this summer.
I know that people talk about, I'm from Winnipeg, and people talk about there's a bit of a mystique about the Winnipeg music community. I always have one with Kitchener-Waterloo, because I think of guys like you and Paul McLeod and Shannon Lyon and all this community that seems to revolve around Mark Logan. And like, what was that scene like? And did you kind of feel like you were a part of an exciting scene, or?
Yeah, it was a super exciting scene. In fact, you know what? There's a show going on tonight in town that I wish I was at. I can't get to tonight. I couldn't. It's a benefit for a friend, and Zabo's playing, and Strongman, and Shannon Lyon's playing, and yeah. But I mean, I grew up playing duo shows with Paul McLeod, and you know, Shannon and Zabo and all those guys. So it was a really cool scene, and there was a bar there called Pop the Gator, and the guy named Mel Brown, from a great blues artist from the States, who moved up there and did a weekly show, and he was a legend, that guy. And yeah, it was really cool, you know, and it's still a great music town, because it's really cool now, because there's this whole new generation of musicians that, you know, I don't know, I know now, but I mean, I'm just learning about it and stuff, and all these great guys. And yeah, it definitely, there was a good scene there, yeah, for a while.
Do you have any sense of why that is? I mean, people, like, when people ask about Winnipeg, we always say because there's nothing around here. There's nothing else to do but play hockey or play music, and there's nowhere else to go. So you're stuck here. But you're not that far from Toronto and all these other places, so you don't really have that same excuse. Do you have any idea why music was so strong there?
Yeah, that is an interesting thing, because yeah, we were just down the road from Toronto and from London and Guelph, and I can tell you there was always a big music kind of scene, and there was a club there called Lulu's that was the largest. I think it was the world's largest bar, and it had the longest bar, and it was basically, they bought an old like a Kmart, so the size of a Walmart, and made it a bar, and everybody played there. I mean, like, everybody. Like, I saw James Brown there. I saw Black Sabbath there. I saw Black Sabbath and Motorhead double bill. And I saw James Brown, and I saw everybody played Lulu's. But like, Johnny Cash was there all the time in the 80s. Stompin' Tom. It was a huge stop on the map for big artists coming through Canada. And I mean, so I'm just thinking back to that, might have been like the roots of part of why is a real music town.
Yeah, it's funny, places like that, and here in Winnipeg, a place like the Times Changed or whatever, it kind of has that breeding ground kind of effect on things, right? Like it kind of builds a community. So who knows? Yeah,
if you Google later on, Google Lulu's Roadhouse, like it's like right out of the Blues Brothers, like unbelievable.
Really? Well, that's amazing. Somebody should make a movie about that or something. But
yeah, there probably is. There's a Facebook page about it where you can look at all, you know, people who have probably documented all the shows and pictures and stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So what were your first sort of steps out as an artist? Like, were you in bands before you were Danny Michel and doing lots of other stuff with other people? Is that how you kind of learned it, or were you always driven to do your own thing?
No, I was in a high school band, and then after, in my 20s, I was in another band that was like a kind of party ska band. Like, we were like, you know, remember Fishbone? Yeah, we were kind of like trying to be like that, just like this fun, wacky party band that played like every kind of music. Yeah, we did that, and then I didn't start playing solo. Yeah, probably my late 20s. And until then, I wasn't like taking it really seriously. I was just having fun playing music.
But you were kind of you were playing with other people at around and doing things besides just being your own guy, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, me and Paul were. That's kind of when I started playing. Me and Paul started being a duo, and we were playing shows with the Rio Statics, and oh God, yeah. When I think back, all the cool, we did some pretty cool shows in Toronto with the Rios, and yeah, yeah. Man, you're stirring up ghosts for me now.
well, here's another ghost. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but I tell this story a lot, and I've never actually fact checked it or not. But I believe you used to tour with singer songwriter Gwen Swick, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You were her guitar player. So I always tell people this story, and now we can find out whether it's true or not. But this one time at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, I don't know what year it would have been. You can probably help me out with this, even if this story is true. But I'm working at a daytime stage, and we're getting set up for the workshop, and all of a sudden it starts to pour, and it just was torrential, out of nowhere rain, and I was working the stage crew, and we're scrambling around trying to get everything set up, and the rain starts to let up a little bit, and it's like maybe things are going to be okay. And my memory of it is that this young scrappy kid comes up and plugs in his huge red electric guitar and starts playing Rain, Rain, Rain by the Rio Statics, and it turns into this big dance party at the workshop stage, because other people come onto the stage and everybody in the crowd starts kind of loosening up and dancing a little bit, and it kind of felt like it changed the mood. And I remember, I have this vivid memory of this, and then the next I had no idea really what was happening or who this guy was, and then a few years later I see it at the Winnipeg Folk Festival again, a young Danny Michel, and I go, that's the guy. Do you have a memory of that? Did that actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something I would have done. And I used to cover. I played "Rain, Rain, Rain" many times. We covered it, so that would have been easily. But yeah, I do recall that. Yeah, vaguely, right? It's blurry.
Okay, well, I feel better, because it's one of those stories that I use a lot, just because it was such it was one of those things I can still feel it today, where it's like it's pouring and we're like, this is the worst thing ever, and then all of a sudden the power of music, in my mind, you turned the thing around and turned it into this rainy dance party, and all of a sudden there was no stress, and it was fun again.
So what you're saying, it was like my changing the car tire experience today. So, but our listeners don't know about that.
But yeah, so I mean, you must have you learned some lessons touring with other people that helped you to be able to go out on your own and do your own thing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I actually, like I have regrets of those times too, though, because I wish I was really green, and I was not maybe the most mature guy in those days or whatever. Like,
How could you be, though?
Right. And so what I mean is, like, going out with Gwen, or I played guitar for Sarah Harmer for a while. I look back now and I thought, oh my God, I was like, I didn't. I guess I'm trying to think what I'm even trying to say. Is I just was. It all felt really just fun and loose to me, where I was like, I was surprised that I wasn't more, I don't know. In those times, those were great experiences that I wish I kind of had actually been more, what's the word, present in. I was just young and just like, woo, this and this and this. And yeah, I'm just kind of, I wish I'd really savored those moments and worked a little harder. I was just kind of young and, having fun, and that's, I guess, what you do when you're young and having fun. So, but
And it's the old thing. If I knew then what I knew now, I mean, perhaps we wouldn't have had that fun anyway if we knew then what we know now. And I always like to. I'm a famous for beating myself up for making the wrong choices or whatever. I like to tell myself that I hopefully made the best choice I could have at the time, knowing what I knew then.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you can't fix the past and whatever, but.
Regrets. I have a few.
I try not to, though. I mean, regrets are. I always think of regrets as a complete waste of time. Like, what's the point? You're not going to fix anything. So, like, I don't know. I try not to.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I mean, I know you had some earlier releases, but you just went back and re-released one of your, I guess, a couple of your earliest. I mean, tell me a bit about Phibbsville and In the Belly of a Whale. That was sort of the time when your career really. That was when I became aware of you. Anyway, was that the time when you consider your career proper to have started?
Yeah. I mean, I figure I say Phibbs is my first record, and people go, "No, it's not. You put out this other thing." I'm like, okay, but to me, it's my first real record. Where the songs I think were like, I think there's some good songs on there, and I'm proud of them. And it was I was living in Ottawa, and when I was also later in a band called Starling, and that's basically the band on there is Starling. It's Peter Von Alt and Ian Lefevre, the three of us, and we used to call ourselves the Wedding Band because we actually played at my brother and Ian's sister's wedding. But anyways, and so we recorded that in the market, in downtown in the market in Ottawa, underneath the shawarma store in the basement, and it always smelled like shawarmas, and it was a really, really, like, again, such a green, naive, like, I had no idea about how to do any of that stuff, and we just did it. We just made a record. And I bet we mixed it probably in a day or something. And, I spend weeks mixing one song right now. So.
But that kind of surprises me, because when I listen to those records, they sound great to me. Like I'm kind of surprised by how well they sound, how great they sound, considering how young and how green you were at the time. So obviously you have a different experience of it than I do, but I'm impressed.
No, I agree with you. Like, when I listen to those records, the quality of them is there's some magic going on there. And I don't know what it is, because we didn't have any, like, we couldn't afford good microphones. So we had no real great gear there, but there's something in those recordings that there has a real special energy. And I think it's maybe the playing and the guys, and yeah, it's pretty raw and cool.
Yeah. I know some of these songs have stayed in the playlist over the years, but did you have to, like, are you the kind of guy who listens to your own records? Did you have to go back and listen to these for the first time and remixing these, or for the first time in a while?
No, like, I never listened to my own records. And yeah, which is funny, because sometimes I'll hear something and I haven't heard it in 10 years. And I'm like, oh, wow, that recording's, sounds pretty okay, or else that sounds terrible. So yeah, I remixed the tracks, but I didn't change much. All I did was, like, I thought it's funny, I just kind of pushed the faders up, and I'm like, wow, it's like, it's done. It's just, all it just needs is a little tweak here and there, yeah, so and then we had it remastered, which helped a lot. And yeah, so it's one side of the record is 5 songs from Phibbsville, and the next one is 5 songs from the album In the Belly of the Whale.
So were there any surprises in going back to these records, or any cringe moments that you like, or like, what was that experience like of revisiting that?
Well, the cringe moments didn't make it on the record, so that's nice. Like, I mean, basically, a few people are like, well, why didn't you do the whole record? And the truth of the matter is, neither of those records would fit on vinyl, because, it was the 90s, and remember, that was super cool to put like 25 songs on an album. That was like, everybody was like, I have these huge long records, so there was no way it was going to fit on there anyways. And so I sat through it, listening, thinking, okay, these 5 songs are strong songs, and then there's a bunch that are not as strong. And And then I found the same thing with Belly Whale. So I thought, okay, well, why don't I just make this a kind of like a best of these two? And then I want to continue doing that with all my records. So the next records would be Invisible Man and Valhalla, and then, yeah.
So, I mean, what kind of thought went into choosing these? I was kind of surprised by some of the song choices, because some of the songs that I feel like you've done the most over the years, like Whale of a Tale and Elgin Ave, and there's a few of them that seem like staples of the set list that aren't even on here.
Huh. Yeah, I guess I picked the more like rocky ones, like the more Whale of a Tale, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I picked the ones that I thought that I sang the best and the band performed the best and were just kind of like the strongest. And if I, yeah, do I like Elgin Avenue? Yes, I do very much. But if I had to put it up against Coal Mine, you know, I'd pick Coal Mine. And so, yeah, it was just my gut feeling, those five.
But there's always going to be people who are like, oh, you left out my favorite song, though, right? So.
Yeah, but it's that you can go listen to that whole record.
Right. It's still there.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still there. It's not gone. These are just, here's 5 of the songs enhanced, you know, with a sonic twist.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic, though, this one is sort of released with Mark Logan, actually. Tell me about the desire to team up and do that. Whose idea was that, and how did that come about?
That's so funny. He's so great. I called him because I was going to put out this record, just do it myself. And I thought, when I do this, if I do like shipping of my CDs or vinyl, it's so much work for me to like ship them all the time. And I called Mark because he ships records every day. And I just wanted his advice. I'm like, how do you ship them to what, you know, who do you use? Do you use couriers or Canada Post? And where do you buy your boxes and sleeves and this and this? And he said, well, you know, why? And I said, well, because I'm doing this, it's going to be such a pain. And he said, well, why don't I just do it? And I was like, it never even dawned on me to ask somebody to do this terrible task, right? Which is because it's pretty, but he does it. That's what he does, right? Because he's
been doing the dirty jobs for a long time. He's used to it.
So he said, yeah, well, and you know, he offered to help out putting it all together and kind of acting kind of as a label, but not really, like we're just acting as two pals, and super kind of him, and you know, so that's what we're doing.
That's cool. And for folks that don't know, of course, Mark has run Busted Flat Records for years. He knows all the secrets of releasing a record, and he has a great record store, Encore Records, right? And
yep. I think 43 years running, man. So that was a store I shopped at when I was a little boy, you know.
And so do you have memories of going in there and picking up your favorite records and stuff?
Oh, yeah. God, I can smell that store, the old one. Yeah, I can smell it. I can see it. There were 3 locations. They moved 3 times. And, yeah, they were special, man. They were special. The first one was magic. And it was, I remember going in there and buying records by just like the cover. I would just look at the cover and just think, I wonder what this sounds like. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Can you think of some records that were really formative for you, that really inspired you, or like made you want to do this, or made you want to get better at it?
I remember being in there, and there was a girl named Christine who worked there. And she said, you should get this record or something. And it was a band from San Diego called the Beat Farmers, which I later wound up touring with and opening for. And they were awesome band. They were like, it was like cowpunk, right? It was like country punk rock. And songs, they had 2 singers. Well, actually, they had kind of 3 singers. And each of those singers, you know, would you know, like let's say like Greg Keeler and Jim Cuddy. They each had their own style. So if it was one of their songs, Jerry's song, or we're really serious, and the other guys were really goofy, and so it was a real spectrum of. Yeah, if you're out there, check out the Beat Farmers. Yeah, they're a cool band.
And somewhere in my ancient archive, I'm sure I have. You used to have a song about Country Dick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was somewhere on about. It wasn't my greatest writing in those days, but it was. Yeah, because we had toured with them, and then he had passed away on tour. Yeah. Yeah. My other first memory of vinyl records was at a place called Highway Market, which was a grocery store. It was the most amazing grocery store. Like old wooden creaky floors, and it had like a diner in it, and had a record and a music section. So it'd be like going to a grocery store for food, but there was a record store in there. It was wild. And I remember that was the first time I saw this David Bowie record, the album Heroes, and the picture on the front with him like holding his hands like a robot and looking like it's super weird, looking like a weirdo. And I remember looking at it and just thinking, oh, this is so weird. And I thought, I wonder what it sounds like. It must be so weird. And so I got my parents to buy it for me, and I put it on, and of course it's his weirdest record ever. And it's just like, and I was like, it was exactly what I thought. I'm like, I've never heard anything like this. Wow. Yeah.
You must have stories by now of people going in and discovering your records and being kind of turned on or blown away by that. Do you ever have those moments where you go like, yeah, I've had this career and people have responded to it. It's.
Well, I mean, that's wow. I mean, yeah, I don't think about that, but that's beautiful. I mean, people don't often tell me those type of things, but I do get wonderful notes and messages from people sometimes telling me about how songs have helped them, and how or people that like how my songs, their wedding song and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think someone's like, couples who have "This Is Our Song," right? Like that they got married to. That's wild to think that that's my song. That's very beautiful.
You've always been good at so many things. I mean, you have so many musician friends who are especially good at the performing, or especially good at playing their instrument, or especially good at producing. You've always kind of been really good at all those things. Like, do you feel like you're better at one thing than another, or do you spend time making sure that you're,
I feel like I'm just okay at them all. I mean, no, but no, but I mean, like, I'm no gunslinger hot licks guitar player. And over the years I've gotten, maybe when I was young I was even better, because over the years I've realized, great songs have nothing to do with how good you play guitar. You learn your chords and strum in time and be in tune, and that's what makes a good song. And if I was to play the piano, I could fake it a bit, but I can't really play the piano. And so I can play the drums for a little bit until I get tired. So I feel like on musical instruments, I've never, like, I'm not a guy who practices the guitar. I don't sit around learning chops and stuff. I play the guitar when I want to sing or write a song.
So is that kind of the measuring stick, or the goal then, is the songs? You keep coming back to the songs. Is that where you want to feel like, is that what makes you feel like you're finally an artist, if you're writing good songs?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that I hope to be a hot licks gunslinger at, is songwriting. Yeah, but I hope that's my priority, is that, right? And I always wish I was better at that, and I always trying to be better at that, and I have a really hard time writing these days. It's like constant. It's a real struggle writing these days, because I think I just really am so critical about everything I write. I'm like, no, it's not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. So it's I got to learn to ease up on that.
And that's gotten worse, you think, with time? Like you've become harder on yourself?
Oh, every year, yeah. I've been written a lot lately. Yeah, I find it really hard. Is that because you're getting in your own way and you're dismissing ideas, or what? Yeah. And I need to follow through. I mean, my advice to people writing songs is, like, no matter what, finish the song. And this is, I'm telling myself, because I don't I don't do it. Like, just finish the song, because when you're finished, you can then decide, okay, it's not good, or you can fix it, or change it and fix it. But if you don't finish it, you've got nothing to even like work on or fix, or and you kind of feel like, again, I failed. So it's a real head game for me. That's tougher as I get older. Because when I was young, I don't know, I was just like just cocky, and I would just write something and go, "That's awesome." when I'm like, really, it wasn't that awesome. It was a bit awesome, like it was neat, but like I was way too excited by it, and seeing it through rose-colored glasses or something.
Well, how do you decide when a song is done, or how do you decide when it's good? I mean, again, going back to what we talked about before, some people are going to like some of your songs that you might hate.
I don't know. For me, it's just, you just know, when, like, yeah. That's all I can tell you. You just know.
What songs of yours would you say you're the most proud of, or that stand out to you as being like, yeah, that one I really got it there?
Songs like like more popular ones would be like Feather, Fur, and Fin. That song, I think we nailed the recording. Like, here's a good way of saying it. To me, catching a song and getting it recorded the right way is kind of like being a bounty hunter, and you got to go out and catch it, and you can bring it back dead or alive, and if you bring it back alive, you get a bigger reward. And we caught that one, and we fought it and brought it back alive and nailed it. And what I mean is, like, there's songs where you record the song, and then 10 years later I go, oh wow, this song is so much better if it was just slowed down, and it's in the wrong key, it's way too high for me to sing. And basically over time, the song teaches you how it should be played. But with Feather, Fur, and Fin, the key, the tempo, just the feel, everything, I feel all the stars aligned in that song. The right guys playing on it, yeah, and that's one. But songs that I am most proud of, like, I have another song called "Who's Gonna Miss You When You're Gone." I really love that song. I think, lyrically, it's I don't know, I'm just proud of that one. And then there's weird ones that no one knows. Like, I have lots of those. Like, there's a song called "The Switchman," which I think, I don't know, Rob in my band, he's like, that's the best song you've ever written. Yeah, but it's very weird, lots of strange chords, and it's a weird song, so it's not like catchy, but it's yeah, I always play that song and feel really cool playing it. I like that one. I don't know, it's hard for me to talk about these because I don't know. Yeah.
Are you too close to them? Is that why it's hard, or you're afraid of sounding like you're arrogant about them? Like, what's
Yeah. I feel like this is really. I feel like a little douchey talking about my favorite songs of mine.
Well, I'm fascinated by, though. Obviously, lots of people love these songs, and I have this conversation. You artists are so weird about yourselves. You should be proud of it. You make these things that are so. That takes so much talent and so much effort and whatever. You should be proud of them, and you should brag about them. So that's my advice to you, from someone who's never written anything ever. The fact that you do it, you should be proud of that. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, thank you. Sometimes songs like surprise you in the sense that there was a song I wrote called like just recent one called "Nobody Rules You." It's like the most simple song, like so simple. And I thought, I almost didn't put it out because I thought, this is like, it's corny. It's so simple, and it's got a little cheese factor to it. And I thought, yeah, but it feels good to sing it, and people seem to be liking it, and it like really struck a chord with people. And what's really cool is it struck a chord with a lot of young people. Because schools all the time, I got another message today to come talk to a school, and these schools that want to like get the kids to like do the song in class, and the little orchestra's learning it and singing it, because the lyrics are really kind of friendly for a young person to, becoming who they are in this world. And yeah, so I mean, that's like, gosh, that's the coolest thing in the world, when you go to a school and you listen to a little kid orchestra play your song. Oh my God. Whew. So that's like worth 20 Junos or something, you know what I mean?
I would imagine.
Yeah, that's like real life, And so yeah.
See, but again, that's the kind of thing you should be proud of. Like, not everybody gets that experience. So that's great. Congratulations for that.
Thanks. And sometimes you write a song, you think everyone's gonna hit, and nobody does.
Right. Well, I guess that's what keeps you going, right? Like onto the next one. And speaking of revisiting old songs, I always wonder about the new Coat of Paint series that you were going to launch, and then you only put out one. I love it when artists put out an album called Volume 1, or in your case, it was Volume 2. I always want to tell my friends, don't do that, because as soon as you say volume something, and it seems like there's never a next volume. Is that the case with this thing?
Oh, I thought, let's make it Volume 2, and we're gonna do when they put out like Star Wars and stuff in reverse and everything, So I know, I was thinking this year I should get the guys, we could do Volume 1 now, or else Volume 3 and not 1 yet. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just did that to be a goof, because everyone's like, well, where's Volume 1? We're like, it's not out yet.
But it's like, I mean, because you play so often solo, I would imagine you can reinvent and redo your songs, on a nightly basis if you wanted to. But it's interesting, I guess, when you're doing that, you must sort of discover new things about them. And
that's what I mean about when the song like teaches you how the song trains you how to play it over years, because you just find, oh, this is the right key. I did it in the wrong key on the recording, and that recording we brought it home dead, and then so that happened with a bunch of those songs, and then all of a sudden I thought, oh man, I'd love to put these out like with this nice new feel, and just it's always cool to hear a band play a different version of their own song or something. It's like covering your own tune.
Oh, it's a fun way to do it, and a fun way. I would imagine in a way you're helping people to rediscover old songs, or giving them a new life anyway. And
yeah, I mean, and many times if people were going to go hear a song of mine, I hope they hear the newer version, because I personally think it's better than the old one. But see, now my goal in life is to never have never have a recording that's not right.
Well, again, though, are you just going to end up getting in your own way and never finishing anything if you put that much pressure on it, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Clearly, I need help.
Sometimes it's good to just get it out there, and then, like you've proven, you can always redo it later if you have to. But sometimes
the last record I did during COVID, which was a pretty gloomy record, that was hard to get out. It was like, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, though. That's you're talking about the Ghost Town record, or are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what? I mean, obviously, it has a bit of a different sound and a different feel to it. Was that intentional, or was that just kind of the tone of how you were feeling at the time, or?
Well, it was all kind of like written with the lonely feelings of the COVID times, but it also, what was the kind of secret or the little magical gift that appeared, that was because as when I recorded it, it was in the thick of COVID, and the possibility of going out and touring it was, well, maybe I can't, right? So because there was no guarantee of being able to actually like support this record when it came out, it gave me this gift of this freedom to just be as artistic as you want, because you're not gonna have to really go play these tunes, and so you kind of like do something, get in even deeper than you would have, because usually I go, okay, well, don't write a song that you can't pull off by yourself. Like don't write a song that I can't sing at a campfire on a guitar. But there's a bunch of songs there that I kind of can't sing at a campfire. They're just too involved with too many big things, you know. and so that was kind of cool, though. You know, that's fine.
It must be kind of freeing in a way to be able to explore new things and to not have to worry about, you know, what that's going to sound like on stage and stuff. So.
Yeah, and it's a record I made where I just really 100% did not care what came of it or if anyone liked it. I just made it for me, really.
And so does that open you up to the new surprises when people react in a certain way? Does that give you sort of more or different validation when people reach out and say, "Hey, that was pretty good"?
I mean, no. I always, of course, I feel that I hope the people connect with the songs and enjoy them, of course. But at the same time, you don't. What do they say? Don't play to the gallery. You know, I write songs for me. And I mean, because clearly, if I wanted to write more poppy songs and to be successful and more successful or whatever, I could do that. I think I understand that recipe, but that's not what I want to do. So it's I write to entertain what I love about art to myself. If others like it, I'm super, super lucky.
That's exciting. And are you doing a lot of producing or working with other artists these days? I know you've dabbled in it here and there over the years, but I feel like it's been a while since you really worked with somebody else.
I did a record at the beginning of the pandemic with Lindy Vopnfjord. I produced his record, and I'm really proud of that record. I think Lindy brought some beautiful songs, and we worked really hard. And we had a great time doing it, and then it was born right in the middle of the pandemic. Like it was like he finished mastering his record, and they're like, "There's a thing called COVID where everyone has to stay home now." And Lindy was like, "Oh my God!" And so his album kind of got lost in the shuffle, and no, it was a real shame. So if you're listening, you should go find that latest Lindy record and give it some love. They're beautiful songs. He's a great singer. That's the last thing I produced.
Those experiences, like those are just people approaching you and saying, "Hey, would you like to help me out with this?" Or how do those come about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go out and hustle for that stuff. I just do it if I have to. Obviously, I have to really like the music. And Lindy came to me and said, "Will I do it?" And I'll say yes to him forever. So he just asked me if I'd do it. I wish more people would come and ask me because I'd love to.
In the solo career, sort of, do you have a roadmap, or do you know what you want to do next, or what comes next for you personally?
I've had a bit of a quiet year on purpose. I took some time off. I haven't played much this year. I'm playing in November a bunch, but until now, it's been a real quiet year, and I've just kind of taken a break from music and stuff. I think COVID taught me a good lesson, and that, you know, I've been hustling, playing every weekend since I was 18, and having a bit of time off made me really feel like, wow, I kind of really enjoyed that. And so now I want to play, for me, just smarter, in the sense that, like, go out, work a whole bunch really hard, and then take some time off, and then work really hard and take some time off, instead of just piecemeal all the time, I think.
So do you envision your tour kind of going off in a different direction, or like being less intense, I suppose, or can you sort of see into the future of how you want to do things going forward?
I guess I think I've learned as I get older is that I want music to be a part of my life and not my life anymore. You know, I don't want it to be everything. Like, I have lots of other interests. I have played music a lot, and I love doing it. But yeah, I want it to be a part of my life, not my whole life.
That's great. That's a good way to look at things for sure.
Yeah, no, that to me that feels really healthy. And there's a lot of a lot of pressure and weird head stuff that goes, mental health stuff that goes on with like the pressure and anxiety of like constantly putting on a record and then going and touring and then worrying about ticket sales and this and then and it's just like doing that for constantly trying to sell yourself and applying for grants and awards, and like it gets pretty like, oh my God, I've had enough of me, like yeah, there's days where I'm really sick of me, because you wake up and you have to like work on your job is yourself, right? And yeah, so sometimes I like to just chop wood is my favorite thing. Yeah.
It seems like, and again, I'm not an artist, but it seems like your job has gotten so much harder, though. The pressures must be different now, and the ability to build a career and sustain it now must be different than it was 25 years ago when you were.
Yeah, I mean, I feel worried for younger artists. I can't imagine how hard it is. Like, I was kind of in the heyday. Like, you got to remember, I was selling CDs in the days when CDs were at HMV for $27.99. No, like CD sales in the 90s bought my house, and now that is zero. So I don't know how someone does that anymore. But I don't know. I don't know how that's. And I've expressed my opinions about what I think about the industry and streaming, and it didn't do me any good. Everybody just, said, get off my lawn, that kind of thing, that I was like, yeah, like I was old, cranky, complaining, and, I'm sure many, yeah. And I got teased about that, but I was like, okay, I'm just trying to point out that artists should be paid fairly for what.
See, that shocks me. I mean, are you talking about like your colleagues, your fellow musicians, or are you talking about fans, or who's? Because for folks that don't know, like you took a hardline stance kind of against. You were one of the early people who said, you know what, Spotify and services like that, we're not making any money here. That's a bit of a problem, and you were very vocal and brave about that. So what was the backlash?
That bit me in the ass.
Really?
Doors closed. I had musicians, peers of mine, like make fun of me on Twitter, about it.
Seriously?
Who I won't. Yeah. Oh yeah. And
but you're arguing for them as well. You're standing up for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how I thought. I felt that too. It was a real head scratcher. I was like, I'm trying to like who's gonna like, imagine someone coming and like cheering for you to get a raise at work and you like making fun of them. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was a very strange thing, and I just have no opinion about anything anymore.
Of course you do. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm like, I always thought you were so ahead of the curve on that one, and like, unfortunately, I see that it didn't really work, but I appreciated you trying for sure.
Yeah, well, I guess I failed for sure, because I just felt, all I felt was this, like, every musician I talked to felt the same way. They're like, this is crazy. What's going on?
That's why it surprises me that they weren't on your side on this one.
And then I thought, well, all we have to do is say no. That's it. Like, if every musician just goes, no, you can't have our music, then they have nothing. They have an empty library. They're nobody. And we all just said, yeah. and that's it. Now that genie's out of the bottle, and music is free for the whole world forever.
Here's been what I've been shouting through my computer screen at you all these years, is that Spotify doesn't care about you. They're not going to listen to you. I mean, I appreciate, like, you went to the office and stuff, didn't you? Like you literally went to them and tried to change things.
Yeah, I had a meeting there, and basically they tried to explain to me how different ways that I could use Spotify smartly to get more streams.
See, that's so wrong to me. So here's the thing: you know more people than me, and you've invested in good ideas. I've got a good idea. I want you to find somebody, and you go do it. You make whatever money you can off of this idea, because I think it's a good one. Okay, this is between you and me. I'm giving this to you, Danny Michel, because I'm such a fan. Okay, so what we need, I think Bandcamp has proven that there's a market for people who want to give you money to listen to your music. I don't know how much you make off Bandcamp, but I assume there's some money there. And when I go and buy your record, I always pay more than the minimum, and I buy stuff that I've already got and all that stuff. There are more people like me out there, I think. So what we need is a different streaming service, one where the money I put in actually goes to the artists I listen to. If I listen to all Danny Michel all month and I pay $10 a month or $20 a month, I want to know that whatever portion of that the company doesn't keep, the 15%, 20%, whatever you want to call it, I want that money to go to Danny Michel. There must be a way to do this.
Well, Spotify has they added a feature where you can donate. So
I know that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about subscribing to a music service where, and I get that major label artists aren't going to be on there. I'm talking about another streaming service where if I pay $20 a month, it goes to whoever I listen to. Not a fraction of a cent. That $20 minus whatever the website keeps goes to who I listen to.
And you're suggesting someone creates this thing?
I've been waiting for somebody to steal this idea from me for a long time.
It's a big undertaking.
I know, that's why I'm not going to do it. But you carry that with you. Put it in your suitcase, okay? And the next time you run into a technology guy who wants to make something happen, there's your idea. You go with it.
Okay, it's in my backpack.
That's for you.
Thank you.
That's for you.
But don't let them hold you down. Don't fade into the crowd, 'cause they don't make the rules. And this world is bright and blue.
You can hear more of my conversation with Danny on the November 10th episode of my radio show, Tell the Band to Go Home. You can find that one at tellthebandtogohome.com or pretty much wherever you got this podcast. On that show, we'll talk about Danny's current tour with Steve Poltz, which brings them to Winnipeg on November 19th at the West End Cultural Center and all kinds of places out west after that. Tickets are available through Ticketmaster. I'll put a link up with the episode at flywithyourshadow.com. If all goes according to plan, I'll even have an episode with Steve Poltz for you next week as well. Stay tuned wherever you got this podcast for more episodes to come. You can sign up for immediate updates at the website, flywithyourshadow.com. Fly With Your Shadow is and always will be free and without ads or any requests for money. The one thing that you could do to help support the show is to share this episode with people that might enjoy it. Finding people to listen is my biggest challenge. Your help would be so greatly appreciated. Please take a moment to tell someone about the show or share a link with your followers and friends on social media. I so appreciate hearing from listeners. If you have any questions or comments or feedback or suggestions, drop me a line at flywithyourshadow@gmail.com. My name is Jeff Robson. I sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you'll join me again on the next episode of Fly With Your Shadow.